we've rounded up some of our favorite historical female badasses to show that girl power is real power. These 9 inspirations are a force to be reckoned with. She was the daughter of the most powerful ruler in Central Asia in 1280 AD. She was described by Marco Polo as a superb warrior. She was said to have insisted that any man who wished to marry her must be able to defeat her in wrestling. Kutuyun would win horses for every man she defeated in wrestling, and it's believed she won up to 10,000 horses. There are sources, too, that say her husband ended up being the man that failed to assassinate her father and was taken prisoner. A fitting man for a woman of such fame. Here was a force to be reckoned with. Qing Shi, originally a prostitute turned pirate, who terrorized the China Sea in the 19th century. She commanded something like 20 to 40,000 men, women, and children. And her entire fleet, which was run by subordinates, had more than 1,500 ships and roughly 180,000 people. Qing Shi is considered to be one of the most successful female pirates in history. Her fleet could not be defeated by the Qing dynasty, the Portuguese Navy, or by the British. Queen Elizabeth I is considered by many to be the greatest monarch in English history. Though declared illegitimate, Elizabeth was a survivor of scandal and danger, her mother being the second Boleyn girl, and having been beheaded when Elizabeth was aged 2, her father being the notoriously testy Henry VIII, a man known to banish or execute those who fell out of favor. Any of this ringing a bell? She was 25 years old when she became queen in 1558, handed a bankrupt nation torn by religious discord. Her only hope, or so she was counseled, was to marry quickly and lean upon her husband for support. But Elizabeth had other ideas. Ruling alone for half a century, she was only the 3rd queen to rule England in her own right, and the other 2 examples of which, her cousin and half-sister, were disastrous. Elizabeth is credited with one of the greatest military victories in English history, and her 44 years on the throne provided welcome stability for the kingdom, helping to forge a sense of national identity. Often known as the Sea Queen of Connaught, Grace O'Malley is a well-known figure in Irish folklore history. Her father was considered a pirate, who, in order to convince him to take her, a girl, on the ships as a child, cut off all her hair with his hunting knife. After her father's death, she inherited the ship and trading business, so his legacy lived on, and her exploits continued throughout her entire life. She was a fighter, a pirate, and a true leader. She took down castles and forts and withstood terrible sieges. In 1593, her half-brother and children were taken captive by the English. O'Malley sailed to England to speak with Queen Elizabeth I herself. She was able to work out an agreement to get her family back, and keep an English representative out of Ireland that was causing her much grief. She did this entirely in Latin, as she spoke no English and the Queen spoke no Gaelic. Sojourner Truth was an African-American abolitionist and women's rights activist. Originally given the name Isabella Baumfree, she was born into slavery in New York, but escaped with her infant daughter to freedom in 1826. After going to court to recover her son, in 1828, she became the first Black woman to win a custody battle against a white man. In 2012, Malala Yousafzai was shot in the head and shoulder while boarding a school bus in northwest Pakistan through her public advocacy for women's education and her writing about life under Taliban occupation. The assassination attempt only fueled her desire to increase the quality of life for women and girls. On her 18th birthday, Malala opened a school for teenager refugee girls, using funds raised for her not-for-profit Malala Fund. In 2014, Malala was announced as the co-recipient of the 2014 Nobel Peace Prize for her struggle against the suppression of children and young people, and for the right of all children to education. Being only 17 at the time, Malala is the youngest ever Nobel Prize winner. For this one, we're talking about 4 different women, known as the Mirabal Sisters. These Dominican sisters boldly opposed the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo during the 1950s. 3 of these sisters, Minerva, Maria Teresa, and Petria Mirabal, created a group known as the Movement of the 14th of June. It was named after the date of a massacre one of the sisters had witnessed. They protested regularly and handed out pamphlets that highlighted the people killed by the dictator. The 3 of 4 sisters were eventually assassinated in 1960 by Trujillo, but the assassination fueled the movement against this dictator, who was then assassinated the following year. The only sole surviving sister, Didi, devoted her life to continue her sister's legacies. Marie Curie was a Polish and naturalized French chemist and physicist who performed groundbreaking research on radiation. She was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. and the first person and only woman to win twice. Proud of her Polish identity, Curie named an element she discovered polonium. In 1934, at age 66, Curie died in France from aplastic anemia, brought on by exposure to radiation from carrying test tubes of radium in her pockets while doing research. She coined the word radioactivity, discovered two elements, polonium and radium, and developed techniques for isolating radioactive isotopes. Nancy Wake was a British Special Ops executive agent during World War II. She's considered one of the Allies' most decorated servicewomen of the war. After France was taken over in 1940, she became a courier for the French resistance. At one point, she killed an SS officer with her bare hands in order to prevent him from sounding an alarm. By 1943, Wake was the Gestapo's most wanted person. She had a 5 million franc price on her head. During a jump in France, Wake became stuck in a tree, and when found by a soldier, he said, "I hope that all the trees in France bear such beautiful fruit this year." To which she replied, "Don't give me that French shit." For more pop culture fun facts, subscribe to our channel below.